I've always loved whatever job I've done. It's always formed a large part of my identity. And as much as so I've got three children. The youngest is 6, and then I've got an 11-year-old, 10-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And to be honest, when I first became a parent, I found it very difficult to try and progress the way that I wanted to at work and be a mother the way that I wanted to, like most working parents. But actually being a mother and understanding my children as they started to grow up, and especially having 3 of them, and knowing that as a parent, they come from the same gene pool, and I parent them in the same way as much as I can. And they come out completely differently, and I need to use different parenting techniques for each of them. And that very much informed my leadership as well, and my leadership style. So it was along similar lines. As soon as I saw that my children, just as soon as I saw and recognized them for their own individuality and saw how it worked in my working environment, it was actually the same. I approached them both in the same way, but obviously one more professional manner and one from more maternal. But I think as my children got older, I realized that they needed much more from me in terms of emotional support. So when they were younger, I could outsource the childcare, and it made it much easier for me to come to work and focus on the job at hand, because I was just excited that I got to drink a cup of tea that was still warm, go to the bathroom, not be followed around, all of the other things, just have a little bit of freedom. But as they get older, it's much more difficult to outsource the childcare because they need you on a more emotional level. They come home from school and they've had a bad day and they can articulate it more. When they're younger, they just kind of needed somebody there to give them a cuddle and to tell them it was okay. But as they're older, they need their parents. And as their mother, I want to know what's happening. I want to know what's informing their behavior. And something else when it kind of comes to communication that I live by is all behavior is communication. So if they're lashing out, if there's a particular change in their behavior, they're actually trying to communicate something to me that they're not able to articulate. And so if I'm not there to capture that, then that goes against the grain of who I am. And it felt wrong to a point. I'd say that having my 3rd child changed me the most. And I don't know whether that was because of the different time in my life, because suddenly we were outnumbered. And we had more children than adults to try and kind of round them up. But suddenly it just became so much, and it also coincided with my older children going to school as well. But something changed, and it wasn't as important to me what people at work were thinking. It was more important to me that I was there for my children as well. But there's no instant kind of feedback from children really. Whereas in a work environment there is, I'm very task orientated. And I would do a task in the work environment and get a pat on the back and, oh, well done, Ellie, you're doing a great job. And I'd get an end of year appraisal. And that's something that motivates me. I'm very kind of basic like that. But the children don't give you that. I'm never going to get that from being a mother. I'm going to have one day where I think I'm winning. And then I'm going to get another 30 where I think I'm the worst mother in the world because that's all they tell me that I am. So the feedback is really different. So I think trying to juggle all of that and realizing that actually the corporate world wasn't working for me anymore. I was becoming much more familiar with who I was as an individual, not as a mum, not as an employee of the company that I was part of, not as a wife, but just as me. And that wasn't fitting in the work environment anymore. And trying to be everything I could to my children, be everything I could at work, be everything I could as a wife, and fit things in for me and my own personal development. Something had to give, and it was me, because none of the rest of everyone else is being really well treated. But it was me in the middle that was the one that kind of really struggled and just burnt out. So that was a big decider in me starting up my coaching business, because then I could make the decisions. I could be there for my children. I could make my own decisions and have my own autonomy. I don't think I'd ever been fully prepared for the fact that I'd got all of these people in the work environment who came to me for coaching and said how great I was and how they couldn't cope without me. And I stepped out of that environment expecting people to just queue around the door because people knew me by reputation in the work environment. And then nobody knew me in this new world. So that's been very much a learning curve that I think 12 months in, I'm starting to take with a pinch of salt now. It doesn't wound quite as much as it used to, the whole rejection. And now I just take it as a gift that I'm able to do that. But in terms of my newer role, so I've started an employed role in a local primary school. 3 weeks ago I started, which I spoke to you about, Francis, that there were all kinds of emotions going around that I had to get a job to get some regular income in. And that was all that I saw it as. And I applied for a few jobs, but this particular role offered far less money than any of the jobs that I'd applied for. But there was something about it that was drawing me to it. And I think probably because it really nicely connected with the experience I have as a mum. It's part-time work. It's a job share, so that's even better because there's somebody else to pick up the back end of the week, which I've never had before. And it's actually done me so much more good than I thought it would do, because as somebody who talks about, I joked people, Kieran, who's watching this, laughs that I say that I don't like people, which as a coach is not something I use in my marketing. But I do tend to much prefer my own company. I don't like big groups of people. And the idea of going out makes me want to go, no, I don't really like people. I'd rather just be on my own. But it turns out I'm actually human as well. And as a human, I need connection. I need to be around people just for my own natural survival. So this job provides that I didn't realize I was missing until I got it. And it's lovely. And I get those pats on the back. I get the words of appreciation that I've been missing over the last 12 months. I get people saying thank you. I get to feel needed in a controlled environment. And yeah, it's been a really, really good shift for me. And it feels strange to say that after 3 months ago. I think I was crying on a call to you, Francis, saying, oh my goodness, what does this mean? But I get some time to spend doing the work that I love in coaching. I get to use some of my coaching skills at the school. And it feels like a win-win at the minute. And I also get the time off every few weeks in terms of the school holidays. I get to spend time with the children, quality time, or I have the money to ship them off to childcare, which is as good for them as it is for me. So yeah, I'm really surprised to say how much I enjoy it. I expected to endure it. I expected to go, okay, so 3 days a week, I need to suck it up. But it's massively helped me from a mental health point of view. And it also means that on the days that I do get to do coaching, I can be much more selective. I only have 2 days, so I can't just take on anybody because I'll take on anybody. I have to have people who really energize me. I have to really want to be able to work with them. And so it helps me really hone in my marketing, hone in my selection process. And that's exciting.